Just like you, I'm at home, sheltering in place, dealing with COVID-19. With 15,000 people dead, this is a very, very serious disease, possibly the epidemic of our time. But what is the most important factor of COVID-19 that nobody's talking about, or they're just getting to understand? Let's talk about it right now. What's happening? This is your boy Lascel, the M.B.A. back at you today. I know I've been going for a while. As you can see, I've retooled. I brought a whole new flavor to it, trying to step the game up. This is for my bosses, for my boss community, and right now for all of Americans and all humanity. As we deal with this global and definitely national epidemic, I sit here from the epicenter, New York City. And what we're going to talk about, even though we've talked about COVID-19 and all of its origins, its symptoms, everybody's looking at somebody cough and they're just like, just ready to freak out in this pandemic of fear. What nobody's talking about is what we want to discuss today, and that's the economic ramifications of COVID-19. I put up a post on social media some time ago where I said that even though we will survive this pandemic, a lot of us have been lost to it. The economic ramifications of COVID-19 will last a lot longer than what we've been dealing with from the physical side. As people look just in New York City alone at over 15,000 dead in about 4 to 5 weeks, what nobody is really looking at or understanding is that there have been another 26 million people, just in this country alone, who have filed for unemployment. Probably another 10 million who haven't been able to get their claims through due to overcrowding to the system. It was never meant to deal with this much unemployment. Over 10 years, they built up 26 million jobs. And today, in less than a month, those 26 million jobs are gone. Now, this is what I want most people to understand. Most people think that by the time they decide to reopen the country and reopen the cities, that all this is going to go back to normal. The problem is nobody's understanding the economic ramifications of what exactly it is that we're dealing with. Major conglomerates are now looking at closing their doors, even with the bounce back. If a company had 200 employees, they may only be able to bring back 50. So you're still dealing with the long-term ramifications of what COVID-19 is doing to our country and doing globally. What most people don't understand is that when the doors open, everything doesn't bounce back to normal. With bailouts being the way they are, everybody's talking about the stimulus checks, and while it was much needed relief for many of us and who are not working, and some of us who are working, we're being taxed to the limit even with our income coming in. People don't understand that with 26 million people out of work and small businesses needing bailouts that they can't even get at this point, the economy is going to take a definite hit. People don't understand that at some point, the buck has to be paid by somebody. What does that mean? What that means is the longer that people are definitely out of work, they have to get unemployment or they have to get some kind of income from somewhere. Even though we have a pledge from the federal government to extend unemployment benefits, what does that mean? For the taxpayer that is paying his taxes and it is collecting a check, it means higher taxes. It means that other resources that were adequately funded are now facing budget cuts. What does that mean also for schools? What does that mean for everybody? That means that at some point, if the government keeps on giving this, that means that other places and other resources that desperately need those funds, basic mandatory programs, municipalities, they are losing money. Right now in the school system in New York, there's a massive budget cuts, and I would be surprised if it didn't go on throughout the country. What people don't understand is that that money has to come from somewhere. With people also losing their jobs, The government has asked for banks to give bailouts. It has been asked people to give furloughs. Okay? Let's take a look at that. For those out there who are saying that this is a holiday, that I don't have to pay my rent, I don't have to pay certain services because they're not going to cut off my light, they're not going to cut off my internet, they're not going to interrupt certain things. This is what most people don't understand. While you cannot be evicted based on municipal orders that landlords can't do that, what happens when you come back, when the jobs come back? Let's say that you do come back to work. Let's say that you are one of the fortunate ones where your company can withstand the economic downturn of what's been going on for already over a month, and you come back to work. If most people I know, especially here in New York and places where the economy is very tight, you make great money, but money doesn't last as long in New York. Most people live check to check. So let's just look at the math of certain things. Let's say that your rent is $1,000, all right? Everybody who lives in New York knows that's a fictitious number, so please just bear with me, just walk me on this. Let's say that your rent is $1,000, and your car note, whatever, groceries, whatever, you spend maybe $2,200 a month, right? This thing goes on for 2 or 3 months, and it's all been deferred. If you do not pay those bills, what happens when we go back? Creditors are going to instantly hit you with that. Worst case scenario, things get cut off, you get evicted, things get repossessed. We don't think that that's going to happen based on the panic and based on the magnitude of this pandemic. But for 3 months, let's say that you don't pay your rent. That's $3,000 you owe the day this is all declared over and the city is open back up. You go to court because you're going to need some kind of a deferment. Now, because of that, you now owe $4,000 a month, $4,000 for when the first comes around. That gets deferred and broken up. Who can take another $300, $400 added onto their rent, their mortgage, or whatever until it's paid? Who can do that? Most of us can't. This is the magnitude of it. And while most people say, yo, I don't have no sympathy for my landlords, I don't have no sympathy for those banks hold mortgages and liens over buildings. So let's say you live in an apartment like most of us do in New York City. And most of us have a relationship with our landlords. Most of us have a relationship, we've been there for a few years. If the smaller banks that own a lot of these small buildings fold, then the mortgage from that building gets rolled over to a bigger bank or someplace that could actually take on that hit that's looking to clean up in New York. And if anybody knows anything about what's going on in New York, especially in Brooklyn and spots like the Bronx, they take those buildings over, you might have 6 months to vacate. Because now they're going to level the building or they're going to turn it into condos, and maybe you don't have $35,000 to put as a down payment. Maybe your credit is no longer that good where you can actually get a loan or a mortgage. These are the long-term economic effects of what's going on. And people don't look at it. That $1,200 check that you get, and most people say the little $1,200 check that I get back. Listen, whatever you do, this is my advice for most people. Whatever money you have, hold on to it. Whatever bills you can pay, spend your money wisely. Come out of this as close to zero or even as you possibly can. If you can't, that's understood. That's a road you have to travel. And God willing, you'll get through it. But if you can, take care of those things first. Don't use this as an opportunity to start buying up a whole bunch of steaks, a whole bunch of liquor, going out and spending your money foolishly, ordering stuff online, which a lot of us are doing because we're bored at home, and think that we have a couple of extra dollars. Think about what's going to happen. Because over the next few months, depending on how long this goes, and the longer it goes, the worse it's going to be. we could be looking at 2 or 3 years before we get back to economic normalcy. That said, I want you guys to continue to shelter in place, keep each other safe. For those of us who are no longer with us, our deepest sympathies and condolences go out to the families who live on. Let's get through this, people. Stay safe, practice social distancing, and as always important, if it ain't about $1, it don't make sense. Be smart. My boss community, this is for you. For everybody else, it may not resonate. Spend your money, do what you gotta do. If you're homeless in 6 months, it's on you. Remember, you were warned. So please, do the smart thing, and I'll see you soon. I will continue to upload videos, and if, as always, also important, if this meant anything or resonated with you, please feel free to share, pass the message on to other people who may desperately need this message, who also are looking at things kind of the wrong way. This is not the time to make purchases, even though companies are giving $0 down for cars and giving incentives for you to shop. That's because their companies are in trouble and you can't afford to take on that excess debt. That's it. Listen, please like, share, subscribe, follow me. Also, look for me on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to set up chat rooms for you guys so that we can have this kind of dialogue, especially since everybody's home. I know a lot of people want to do something. If you're bored, let's do something constructive. That said, this is your boy, Lascel the M.B.A. I'll be back soon.